It's a solemn anniversary, 5 years since the 2020 tornado. To begin, can you take us back to that day 5 years ago?
It was one of those days in the spring when it was unusually warm, and it's like it's not supposed to be that warm in the spring, even here. But the forecast, as I recall it, had not called for severe weather. And then in the middle of the night, devastation happened, came down the street. And one of the things that was so eerie about it was that I was kind of learning about it from folks that were on Facebook saying, hey, it's come down my street or things like that. And I had almost none of that damage at my house. And so once it was safe to get out a little bit, I came down to the 5 Points area to see what the damage was like. And it was terrifying because you had electrical lines and things like that that were down and were on the ground. And thankfully it wasn't a weekend, but 5 Points has a lot of nightlife, and so we had people that were out and about in rainy weather with electrical sparks flying in some places, and that was so terrifying. They're just worrying for their safety. And then in a lot of other parts of the neighborhood, you couldn't really see. It was so dark, you couldn't see what the damage was like until the next morning.
As a former council member, of course, you were in a position to help guide this response. So what steps were taken to help the community rebuild and recover?
One of the things for me is that our East Nashville community is very walkable. You can get to things very quickly. And so a lot of our neighbors were able to jump in and at least get their neighbors to safety relatively quickly. One of the things that made me proud to represent that the East Nashville community is that they realized that we were actually really lucky in a lot of ways. We have in the East Nashville area very high home ownership rates, a lot of insurance coverage compared to a lot of other people who were affected by the tornado. We were very lucky. And so a lot of my East Nashville neighbors went out to North Nashville, other parts of the community to work alongside groups that were active in those areas to also continue helping them.
Last question for you. Looking back, how would you describe the emotional and psychological impact that day had on our community, specifically East Nashville?
A lot of people to this day, when the winds are high, they get nervous. We've had other storms that have come through since that time that have knocked trees down and things like that. And for some people, they still relive that experience every time that there's severe weather or even a threat of severe weather. So some of that continues to linger. I think overall, though, again, I think we're pretty fortunate in East Nashville that a lot of folks own their property, had insurance on it. It took a while to rebuild for a number of reasons, but you would largely go through the area today and not know that anything had happened, other than there are some blocks that have no trees on them. You know what I mean? And compared to some other communities that maybe didn't have as many resources, we're very lucky in East Nashville. And so I continue to be grateful for everyone's working together to get us back on our feet quickly and to help others.
Right. Well, Brett, thank you so much. It's hard to believe it's 5 years already.
Absolutely.